Long before Columbus ever set sail, three absolutely incredible civilizations rose and fell in the Americas. They left behind mysteries that honestly still blow our minds. And today we're going to dive in and uncover their stories.
I mean, seriously, think about those questions. How do you do any of that? They sound completely impossible, right? Well, these aren't just thought experiments. These are the very real problems that were solved with breathtaking ingenuity by some of history's most brilliant and often overlooked civilizations.
So, let's meet the masters of the impossible: the Maya, the Aztec, and the Inca. We're talking three distinct cultures, three totally unique empires, each with its own story of incredible achievement against, well, what seemed like impossible odds. Let's see where they all fit on the timeline.
Okay, so to get our bearings, check this out. The Maya were having their golden age, while the Roman Empire was literally collapsing and Europe was heading into the Dark Ages. The Aztec and the Inca, they built their massive empires much later, right when Europe was kicking off the Renaissance. And then, in a shockingly short period of time, the Spanish arrived.
First up, let's talk about the Maya, a civilization that decided to build its entire world in one of the toughest environments you can imagine: the dense, sticky, relentless rainforest of Mesoamerica.
This quote from an early archaeologist just says it all, doesn't it? I mean, just try to imagine building anything, let alone gigantic stone pyramids, in a place where it's always raining, you can barely breathe from the humidity, and you're constantly slipping in mud.
So, that's the big puzzle for the Maya, right? How in the world do you feed millions of people and build these sophisticated cities in a place that seems like it's actively trying to stop you at every turn?
Well, they didn't just survive the rainforest, they completely engineered it to their will. They built raised farm beds in swamps, they carved terraces into mountainsides, and their water management was just genius. But what's truly amazing is their calendar. This wasn't just for ceremony, it was a super precise agricultural tool that told them exactly when to plant and harvest their most important crop, maize.
And how do we know all this? Because they wrote it all down. The Maya developed one of the ancient world's most advanced writing systems. For centuries, these glyphs were a total mystery, but as experts started cracking the code, the stones began to talk, telling us stories of their kings, their wars, and their incredible understanding of the stars. All right, let's move on to our next empire, the Aztec. They had a completely different problem, but it was just as tricky. See, they were the new kids on the block in the Valley of Mexico, and all the good land was already taken. The only spot left for them was a swampy island in the middle of a lake.
Now, according to their own epic story, their main god told them to wander until they saw a very specific sign. And get this, after 200 years, they found it: an eagle on a cactus, with a snake in its beak, right there in the middle of Lake Texcoco. And that symbol is not just some old myth, it's literally on the flag of Mexico today. That's the spot where they built their incredible capital, Tenochtitlan.
So, how do you farm on a lake? Simple. You just build the farmland yourself. The Aztec perfected these things called chinampas. They weren't really floating, but they were man-made islands built by piling up that rich mud from the lake bottom. It created these super fertile, self-irrigating gardens that could feed a massive city. What an incredible solution.
And out of this swampy island grew a city that was a true marvel. Tenochtitlan was a massive, stunning metropolis, bigger than any city in Europe at the time. It was connected to the shore by huge causeways, and they even had a brilliant two-pipe aqueduct that brought fresh water in. One pipe was always running while the other one was being cleaned. It was this clean, beautiful, breathtaking city, literally born from the water.
And finally, let's head south, way up into the Andes Mountains, home of the Inca. Now, their challenge wasn't mud or water. It was something even bigger: gravity and distance. They had to control a huge empire stretched across one of the highest, most rugged mountain ranges on the entire planet.
Just look at that number for a second. 24,000 miles. That is almost enough road to circle the entire Earth. The Inca built a road system bigger than the Roman empires, and they did it all without wheels, without horses, and without iron tools. It's just mind-boggling.
And this road network wasn't just for show. It was the answer to their biggest problem. How do you command, communicate with, and supply an empire that stretches over deserts, 20,000-foot peaks, and insanely deep canyons?
Their solutions were just a masterclass in engineering and social organization. The roads had tunnels and causeways. To get across these impossible gorges, they wove massive suspension bridges out of rope, the first of their kind.
Information traveled super fast thanks to a relay system of runners who could carry messages over 100 miles a day, and it was all built using a labor tax called the mita, where everybody pitched in to work on these huge state projects.
But with no writing, how did they keep track of everything? They used this, the quipu. This incredible device made of knotted strings was basically their computer. Different knots, different colors, different positions could record massive amounts of information, from tax records to census data. It was a totally unique system for managing a huge empire.
And that brings us to the final, and really tragic question. We've seen how powerful they were, how brilliant, how resilient. So how did these seemingly unstoppable empires just disappear, and so quickly?
You see, the Spanish didn't just win because they had better weapons. They were also brilliant opportunists. Cortés got to Mexico and quickly figured out that a lot of local tribes hated the Aztecs, so he turned them into his allies. Pizarro got to Peru and found the Inca Empire was already tearing itself apart in a civil war between two brothers, and he just masterfully played them against each other. It's a key reminder. Sometimes an empire's biggest weakness isn't an outside threat, but the cracks it has within.
The speed of it all is just staggering. Look at these dates. Cortés shows up in 1519. By 1521, just 2 years later, the mighty city of Tenochtitlan is in ruins. A little over a decade after that, Pizarro captures the Inca emperor, and boom, the empire is effectively headless. Centuries of civilization gone in a flash.
So in the end, it wasn't just one thing. It was a perfect storm. Yes, the Spanish had steel swords and horses, but they also exploited political divisions. And maybe most devastating of all, they brought an invisible killer: disease. Smallpox just ripped through the Americas, killing millions who had zero immunity. It wiped out warriors, leaders, and farmers, shattering the very fabric of these empires.
You know, the empires of the Maya, Aztec, and Inca may have fallen 500 years ago, but their stories are far from over. From the jungle ruins to the high mountain peaks, we are still decoding their languages, learning from their engineering, and uncovering the secrets of these lost worlds. Their legacy isn't just carved in stone, it's a powerful reminder of human ingenuity, resilience, and the complex forces that shape all of history. What can their solutions to impossible problems teach us today? Now that is a question we're thinking about.